There are places on Earth that look as if they belong in another world. Some are hidden deep beneath the surface. Others rise from deserts, forests, oceans, or mountains. Some were created by nature over millions of years, while others were shaped by people who lived thousands of years ago. But what makes these places truly fascinating is not simply their appearance. It is the fact that, even after decades of research, scientists still do not have complete answers to some of the questions surrounding them. How were they created? Why were they built? How did ancient people transport enormous stones without modern machines? Why do certain places produce strange sounds, unusual magnetic readings, or unexplained geological patterns? And perhaps most importantly, how much of Earth's story is still missing from our understanding? In this video, we are going to travel around the world and explore 7 mysterious places that continue to fascinate scientists, archaeologists, geologists, and explorers. Some of the mysteries have possible scientific explanations. Others remain controversial, and a few are still genuinely difficult to understand. So let's begin. Number 7. The Nazca Lines, Peru. Imagine standing in the middle of a vast desert in southern Peru. From the ground, you might see nothing particularly unusual. Just dry earth stretching toward the horizon. But rise into the air, and an extraordinary picture appears. Across the desert are enormous drawings created by ancient people. They depict animals, plants, geometric shapes, and long straight lines extending across the landscape. These are the famous Nazca Lines. Some of the figures are hundreds of feet long. One of the most famous images resembles a hummingbird. There are also representations of a monkey, a spider, a condor, trees, flowers, and numerous geometric designs. The scale of these drawings is astonishing, and that immediately raises a question. Why would ancient people create enormous images that are difficult to see from the ground? The Nazca civilization created many of these geoglyphs between roughly 200 BC and AD 600. To make them, the ancient inhabitants of the region removed the darker surface stones of the desert, exposing the lighter soil underneath. The result was a line that could remain visible for centuries because the extremely dry environment receives very little rainfall. But the real mystery is their purpose. One possibility is that the lines had a religious or ceremonial function. Some researchers believe certain lines may have been connected with water, fertility, or rituals. Others have suggested that some of the designs were related to astronomy. The desert itself is also important. The Nazca civilization lived in an extremely dry environment where water was precious. That means the relationship between the people, the landscape, and water may have been central to their beliefs. But there is another fascinating question. Did the Nazca people actually need to see the entire designs from above? Not necessarily. The ancient creators could have constructed the figures using surprisingly simple geometric techniques. Researchers have demonstrated that large shapes can be produced using ropes, stakes, measurements, and careful planning. In other words, the Nazca Lines do not require advanced technology. What remains uncertain is the exact reason why the Nazca people chose to create so many of them. Why these animals? Why these locations? Why these enormous straight lines? And why did the tradition continue for generations? There is no single universally accepted answer. The Nazca Lines remind us that ancient civilizations could transform entire landscapes for purposes that we may never completely understand. And they are only the beginning. Number 6. The Great Blue Hole, Belize. Now let's leave the desert and travel beneath the ocean. Off the coast of Belize, in the Caribbean Sea, lies one of the most spectacular geological formations on Earth. It is called the Great Blue Hole From above, it looks almost perfectly circular. A deep blue circle surrounded by lighter turquoise water. But beneath the surface lies a huge underwater sinkhole. The Great Blue Hole is more than 300 meters across and reaches a depth of roughly 125 meters. It is part of the Belize Barrier Reef System. Scientists believe the structure began forming during periods when sea levels were much lower. At that time, the area was exposed as dry land. Rainwater slowly dissolved the limestone beneath the surface, creating caves and underground structures. Later, sea levels rose. The caves were flooded. Over thousands of years, sections of the cave system collapsed. Eventually, the enormous circular formation we see today emerged. That explanation sounds straightforward, but when divers began exploring the deeper sections, they discovered something remarkable. The walls contain enormous stalactites and other formations that could only have developed when the cave was above sea level. Some of these formations are located deep underwater today. That provides important evidence about how sea levels changed over geological time. But the deeper parts of the blue hole also become extremely dark and oxygen-poor. As divers descend, the environment changes dramatically. At certain depths, the water becomes almost completely depleted of oxygen. This creates a strange underwater boundary. Above it, marine life can thrive. Below it, the environment becomes much more hostile. Scientists have also discovered the remains of marine animals and other biological material in the depths. The blue hole therefore acts almost like a geological time capsule. It preserves evidence of ancient environments and changes in Earth's climate. But there are still questions. Exactly how did the cave system develop? How many stages of collapse occurred? What happened to the ecosystems that once existed there? And what other geological secrets might still be hidden in unexplored underwater caves? The Great Blue Hole demonstrates something important. Sometimes the greatest mysteries are not found in distant galaxies. They are right here on Earth, beneath the water. Number 5. Göbekli Tepe, Turkey. Now we travel to southeastern Turkey. Thousands of years before the construction of the pyramids of Egypt, humans were already creating monumental stone structures. One of the most remarkable examples is Göbekli Tepe. The site dates back roughly 11,000 years. That means it is far older than Stonehenge. It is also thousands of years older than the pyramids. When archaeologists began studying the site, they discovered enormous T-shaped stone pillars. Some of them weigh many tons. Many are decorated with carvings of animals. There are foxes, snakes, birds, insects, and other creatures. The sophistication of the carvings is astonishing, considering the age of the site. But what makes Göbekli Tepe truly mysterious is not simply its age. It is what the discovery appears to tell us about early human society. For many years, archaeologists believed that large permanent monuments became possible only after humans developed agriculture and settled into large communities. The traditional model was relatively simple. First came agriculture, then permanent settlements, then larger populations, then organized religion and monumental architecture. But Göbekli Tepe complicates this story. The site appears to have been constructed by hunter-gatherer communities. If that interpretation is correct, it means groups of people who did not live like later agricultural societies were capable of organizing large construction projects. They had to quarry stone, transport massive pillars, carve them, arrange them, and coordinate large groups of workers. How did they organize all of this? We don't know. Another mystery is the site's purpose. Was it a temple, a ceremonial center, a gathering place, a site connected with feasting? Perhaps several of these possibilities are correct. Researchers have discovered evidence suggesting that people gathered there for large communal events. Animal remains found at the site have raised questions about feasting and ritual activity, but the exact meaning of the structures remains uncertain. There is another fascinating detail. Some structures appear to have been deliberately buried. Why? Was the burial part of a ritual? Were older structures intentionally closed before new ones were constructed? Was the site abandoned because social conditions changed? These questions remain under investigation. Göbekli Tepe changed how many archaeologists think about the origins of complex societies. It suggests that human communities may have been capable of cooperation and monumental construction much earlier than previously believed. And perhaps the biggest mystery is this: what motivated these ancient people to build such enormous monuments in the first place? We may never know exactly what they believed, but their stones survived, and they continue to challenge our understanding of human history. Number 4. The Valley of Death, Kamchatka, Russia. Now let's travel to one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. Deep in the remote Kamchatka Peninsula lies an area sometimes associated with an ominous name, the Valley of Death. Kamchatka is famous for its volcanoes. The peninsula contains numerous active volcanic systems, glaciers, rivers, and vast wilderness. But volcanic landscapes can hide a deadly danger: invisible gases. One of the most important gases associated with volcanic activity is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is colorless. It has no smell, and in high concentrations, it can displace oxygen near the ground. That means animals entering a low-lying area where volcanic gases accumulate can become extremely vulnerable. Scientists studying volcanic environments have documented areas where gases collect in depressions. Small animals may be affected first because they breathe closer to the ground. Birds and larger animals can sometimes avoid the most dangerous zones. This creates landscapes that can appear strangely lifeless. But the mystery surrounding the Valley of Death is not simply about supernatural stories. It is a reminder of how dangerous volcanic environments can be. Volcanoes are not dangerous only when they erupt. They can release gases continuously, and these gases can accumulate without being visible. Kamchatka is particularly fascinating because it remains relatively remote. Large areas are difficult to access. Its volcanoes, glaciers, and rugged terrain create an environment where scientists can study geological processes that are difficult to observe elsewhere. The region also contains an enormous variety of wildlife. This creates a striking contrast. A landscape can support rich ecosystems in one area, while only a short distance away, conditions become extremely dangerous. So is the Valley of Death truly mysterious? Some of the stories surrounding it have certainly become exaggerated over time. But the underlying scientific phenomenon is real, and it raises an important question. How many dangerous geological environments exist on Earth that humans have barely studied? We often imagine unexplored places as distant planets. But Kamchatka reminds us that there are still enormous parts of our own planet where nature operates under conditions that can be difficult for humans to survive. Number 3. The Devil's Sea, Japan. Now we move into the Pacific Ocean. Near Japan lies a region that has long been surrounded by legends of disappearing ships and strange phenomena. It is sometimes referred to as the Devil's Sea or the Dragon's Triangle. Stories about the area became popular in modern times through books, newspapers, and other media. Some accounts describe ships disappearing. Others mention unusual weather or strange lights. But here we need to separate legend from science. The waters around Japan are located in one of the most geologically active regions on Earth. Japan sits near several tectonic plates. That means the surrounding ocean contains earthquakes, volcanic activity, deep trenches, and submarine volcanoes. Underwater volcanic eruptions can be extremely powerful. They can create temporary islands, release gases, disturb water, and generate dangerous waves. Earthquakes beneath the ocean can also trigger tsunamis. The ocean itself can create severe storms and unpredictable conditions. So there are plenty of natural explanations for dangerous incidents in the region. But why did the legend become so famous? Part of the reason is that the Pacific Ocean is enormous. When an incident occurs far from land, finding evidence can be difficult. A ship can disappear for many different reasons: mechanical failure, storms, fire, collision, human error, or extreme weather. Without witnesses or wreckage, the truth may remain unknown. That uncertainty can quickly become a story. Over time, isolated incidents can be combined into a larger legend. The Devil's Sea therefore provides an interesting lesson about mysteries. A mystery does not necessarily mean something supernatural happened. Sometimes the mystery exists because we simply do not have enough evidence. And the ocean is one of the hardest places on Earth to investigate. Even today, much of the deep ocean remains poorly explored. Thousands of meters beneath the surface, enormous areas remain dark and inaccessible. There could be geological structures, ecosystems, and phenomena we have never observed directly. So while there is no convincing scientific evidence that ships mysteriously vanish because of supernatural forces in a special triangle, the waters around Japan are genuinely dangerous and scientifically fascinating. And that brings us to our second location. Number 2. The underground city of Derinkuyu, Turkey. Imagine discovering an entire city beneath your feet. Not a small underground shelter. Not a simple tunnel. A city. In central Turkey, beneath the landscape of Cappadocia, lies the underground city of Derinkuyu. The site extends deep underground and contains multiple levels. There are rooms, corridors, storage areas, ventilation shafts, wells, places for animals, and spaces that appear to have been designed for people to live or hide underground. The scale is astonishing. Some estimates suggest that the underground complex could have accommodated thousands of people. But why would anyone build such a place? One obvious possibility is protection. Cappadocia has experienced centuries of conflict and political change. An underground settlement could provide temporary refuge during raids or periods of danger. People could descend below ground and close large stone doors behind them. These massive circular doors could make it difficult for attackers to enter. But the city needed more than doors. It needed air. That is where the ventilation system becomes particularly impressive. Deep shafts allowed air to circulate through the underground complex. Some shafts also provided access to water. This suggests that the builders understood how to create a functioning underground environment. But another mystery remains. Who created the earliest parts of Derinkuyu? The exact origins are difficult to establish. Different civilizations occupied Cappadocia across thousands of years. Some may have expanded structures created by earlier inhabitants. That means the underground city may not have been built by a single civilization at a single moment. Instead, it may represent centuries of modification. Generation after generation could have expanded existing tunnels. New rooms could have been added. Old spaces could have been abandoned. Passages could have been connected. This makes the site incredibly difficult to reconstruct. Imagine entering a tunnel system where different sections were created hundreds or thousands of years apart. Which civilization built which part? Why was each section created? How many underground spaces remain undiscovered? Cappadocia is famous for its unusual volcanic landscape. Soft volcanic rock made it relatively easy to carve tunnels and chambers, but that does not make the achievement less impressive. Creating a multi-level underground settlement required planning. The builders had to understand ventilation, water, food storage, security, movement, and the needs of large groups of people. Perhaps the most fascinating question is not why people went underground. It is how much of the underground world remains hidden. Cappadocia contains many underground structures. Some are connected. Others may still be waiting to be discovered. Every new tunnel can reveal another piece of the region's history. And if Derinkuyu teaches us anything, it is that the surface of the earth does not tell the whole story. Sometimes the real history is underneath us. Number 1. The ancient city of Teotihuacan, Mexico. And now we arrive at our final mystery. In the highlands of central Mexico stands one of the most impressive ancient cities ever constructed, Teotihuacan. The city contains enormous monuments, including the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. At its peak, Teotihuacan may have been home to a very large population. It was one of the most important cities in ancient Mesoamerica. But here is the mystery. We do not know exactly who founded the city. We also do not know exactly why it eventually collapsed. And perhaps most surprisingly, when later civilizations encountered the ruins, the city was already ancient. The name Teotihuacan comes from the Nahuatl language and is often translated as something like the place where the gods were created. But that was not necessarily the original name of the city. The civilization that built Teotihuacan did not leave behind a simple written explanation of its origins. Archaeologists have discovered evidence of sophisticated urban planning. The city was carefully organized. Large avenues connected monumental structures. Residential compounds were arranged around courtyards. Murals decorated buildings. Trade networks connected the city to distant regions. Obsidian was particularly important. The region around Teotihuacan contained valuable volcanic glass that could be used to make extremely sharp tools and weapons. This resource may have contributed to the city's economic power, but the scale of Teotihuacan is what truly amazes researchers. The Pyramid of the Sun is enormous. Its construction required tremendous amounts of labor. Workers had to quarry, transport, and place huge quantities of material. And they did this without modern machinery. How? The answer is probably not a single secret technology. It was likely organization. Thousands of people working together. Skilled engineers, builders, stone workers, food suppliers, transport workers, religious authorities, administrators. A monumental city requires an entire social system, and Teotihuacan clearly had one. But then something changed. Around the 6th or 7th century, the city's political system appears to have collapsed. Buildings were damaged. Some areas show evidence of burning. Population declined. But researchers continue to debate exactly why. Was it political rebellion? Climate change? Drought? Economic problems? Conflict? A combination of several factors. One possibility is that environmental stress reduced the city's ability to support its population. Another is that internal political tensions weakened the ruling system. It is also possible that external groups contributed to the collapse. But there is no single answer accepted by everyone. And that is what makes Teotihuacan so fascinating. We are looking at the remains of a civilization that built one of the greatest cities in the ancient Americas. Yet the people who created it left us with more questions than answers. Who exactly ruled the city? What language did they speak? How did their political system work? What religious beliefs guided their monumental architecture? Why did the city collapse? And where did its people go? We have pieces of the puzzle, but not the entire picture. The bigger mystery. After looking at these 7 places, something becomes clear. The real mystery is not necessarily that scientists have no explanations. In many cases, scientists have very good explanations. The mystery is that our explanations are often incomplete. The Nazca Lines can be studied through archaeology and geometry. The Great Blue Hole can be explained through geology and sea level changes. Göbekli Tepe can be investigated through archaeology. Kamchatka can be understood through volcanology. The Devil's Sea can be studied through oceanography, geology, and meteorology. Derinkuyu can be examined through archaeology and engineering. Teotihuacan can be studied through archaeology, anthropology, climate science, and history. But every answer creates another question. And perhaps that is the most fascinating thing about science. Science does not begin with the assumption that we already know everything. It begins with a question. Why? How? When? Who? And what happened next? Human history is filled with gaps. Civilizations disappeared. Languages were forgotten. Buildings collapsed. Documents were destroyed. Landscapes changed. Oceans swallowed ancient coastlines. Forests covered abandoned settlements. And thousands of years later, we are still trying to reconstruct what happened. Sometimes we find a stone. Sometimes we find a burial. Sometimes we find an inscription. Sometimes we find an entire city beneath the ground. Each discovery gives us another piece of the story, but rarely does it give us the entire story. What else is still hidden? There is another reason these places are so important. Earth is enormous. More than 70% of its surface is covered by ocean. Large parts of the deep sea remain difficult to explore. There are enormous underground cave systems, dense forests, ice-covered regions, deserts, mountain ranges, and archaeological sites buried beneath modern cities. Every year, new discoveries change our understanding of the past. Advanced satellite imaging can reveal structures hidden beneath vegetation. Ground-penetrating radar can detect underground features without excavation. Modern DNA analysis can reveal relationships between ancient populations. New dating techniques can change the estimated age of archaeological sites. And underwater technology allows researchers to investigate places that were previously almost impossible to reach. That means the list of Earth's mysteries is not getting smaller. In some ways, it is getting bigger. Because every time we look more closely, we discover something we did not know existed. Conclusion. So, which of these 7 places is the most mysterious? The enormous Nazca Lines? The underwater Great Blue Hole? The ancient stones of Göbekli Tepe? The dangerous volcanic landscape of Kamchatka? The legendary waters near Japan? The underground city of Derinkuyu? Or the enormous ancient metropolis of Teotihuacan? Perhaps there is no single answer. Each place tells us something different. The Nazca Lines show us that ancient people could transform entire landscapes for reasons we still debate. The Great Blue Hole shows us that the planet's geological history is written beneath the ocean. Göbekli Tepe challenges our assumptions about the origins of complex human societies. Kamchatka reminds us that Earth's natural forces can be beautiful and deadly at the same time. The Devil's Sea demonstrates how easily unexplained events can become legends. Derinkuyu reveals that entire worlds can exist beneath the surface. And Teotihuacan reminds us that even the remains of a powerful ancient civilization can leave enormous unanswered questions. But perhaps the greatest mystery is not hidden in any one location. It is hidden in the future, because there are still places on Earth that we have barely explored. There are caves that no human has entered, deep ocean regions that no human has seen directly, ancient settlements buried beneath soil, and artifacts waiting to be discovered, somewhere beneath a forest, a desert, an ocean, or a modern city. There may be another discovery capable of changing what we think we know about human history. And when that discovery is finally made, we may realize that the story of our planet is far stranger than we imagined. If you enjoyed this journey through some of Earth's most mysterious places, make sure to subscribe to Most Interesting for more fascinating stories about history, science, mysteries, and the unexplained. And tell us in the comments, which mysterious place should we investigate next? Maybe the next mystery is already waiting to be discovered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.